The Wolf and the Swine. Once upon a time there was a kingdom inhabited by swine. Many kingdoms are inhabited by swine, and many kingdoms are even ruled by swine. But this swine were pigs in the literal sense, with four-hoofed feet, curly tails, and snouts perfectly designed for rooting in things. This kingdom of swine was ruled over by the king of swine, who made his home in a magnificent and strong brick palace, high on a muddy hill that had once been the heart of a verdant and thriving forest. Long ago, however, the pigs of the kingdom had rooted and devoured whatever their snouts turned up, and the great trees were long dead, and few even of the stumps remained. Nevertheless, the industrious pigs had carted off the wood and sticks to build houses where swine might live in comfort, and yet be safe from ravening wolves. Near to the palace were what had once been fields, but as the swine had flourished and increased in number, the pigs had harvested all the straw and used it to build houses of straw for those who could not afford houses of wood and sticks. For without the forest, all the kingdom's wood had to be imported, and the greater the need, the higher the price. Thus, the inhabitants of the kingdom of swine were happy and secure, safe in their houses of straw and wood and brick. And they were happy, for near the whole of the kingdom was become a mire of mud, and the playful swine rejoiced and frolicked therein. And yet the king of swine was troubled. From a balcony of his magnificent brick palace he looked out over the swampy mire that surrounded his abode to the north, and there saw the pitiful remains of the forest, a few skeletal trees and some scrabbly brush that had not yet succumbed to questing snouts. To the south he beheld the ruined fields where his subjects, true to their natures, had rooted the ground and harvested every last bit of straw for low-quality housing. The king of swine looked to the west at the road to the neighboring kingdom, and to the east at the wide sea which not even the citizens of his kingdom had been able to turn into a mud hole as of yet. From these two regions came his kingdom's trade, his food and resources, and ever were they more and more expensive. Though he had grave misgivings about it, the king of swine reached a decision. For the good of his kingdom, he must send for a wolf, before his subjects rooted the road into impassability. Many days later the wolf arrived. As the king had instructed, the wolf arrived by night, disguised in a bright red hooded cloak that hid everything but his long hairy snout and his muddy feet. Though the king of swine was greatly afraid of the wolf, he welcomed the wolf into his fine brick palace and carefully shut the door himself. "I have dismissed the servants," grunted the king of swine. "There is a service I require of you for which you will be well rewarded, and, I think, you will find profitable in other ways." "Are you not afraid?" replied the wolf. "After all, if I had a mind to, I could eat you all up in one bite." "Can you really eat me all in one bite?" the horrified king of swine asked the wolf. "Surely it would take you some time to devour such a pig as I." "It's a thing we wolves can do," replied the wolf evasively. "Where do you think I got this fine red hood from? There was this silly girl and—" The king of swine peered closely at the crimson garment. "Wally's department store," replied the king, interrupting the wolf in mid-story. "What?" barked the wolf. "You got your red hooded cloak from Wally's department store. You've left the tag on it." The wolf looked down. He had indeed forgotten to remove the garment's tag, complete with sale sticker. Swearing to himself, he reached out a paw and tore off the offending tag. "All right," the wolf admitted reluctantly. "Maybe I didn't eat the silly girl who used to wear this and her grandmother all up in one bite. But it's well known that wolves can devour pigs whole in just one bite." The king of swine nodded. He too had heard this, and it occurred to him that it might not be wise to press the wolf for a demonstration. "You are a brave little piggy," conceded the wolf, after a moment spent studying the trembling king. "Perhaps I shan't devour you immediately. I would very much like to know why you have asked me here." "I have a problem, O ferocious wolf," the king of swine began. "My kingdom is in a terrible state. My beloved subjects root through the fields rather than growing crops to eat or straw to build houses. They root through the forest and kill the trees, and so we have no lumber. We can no longer grow food to feed ourselves, nor do we have the materials to build houses to protect ourselves from you and your kin. Soon I fear my modest treasury will be empty, and then my folk will starve, and will sleep helplessly in the mud." "This is very interesting," said the wolf. "I most certainly do enjoy easy meals. You little piggies certainly have made a mess of things. But I cannot solve your problems, O King of Swine. I am a wolf. I cannot plant trees or till the soil. I am no merchant to offer you bargains on what you can no longer produce, nor would those things interest me. I am only interested in eating little piggies." The wolf thought for a moment, then added, "And little girls who wear red. It's a fetish of mine, you see. I don't suppose you have any of those around?" There was an awkward silence. "Never mind that last bit," said the wolf, "but what did you want of me? And be quick, because I grow hungry." "O ravenous wolf," began the king, "it is for that very hunger that I have asked you here. I love my subjects, but they are far too numerous. I require your services, not as a farmer but as a wolf, for the good of the kingdom, so that the land may recover." "You want me to devour your subjects?" asked the wolf. "No, O wolf, I do not want you to, yet it is necessary. Will you help me?" "I will, O King of Swine," replied the wolf eagerly. "I shall begin immediately." "My subjects have built for themselves and their safety houses of straw and of sticks and wood," said the king. "I will not command them to leave their places of safety, for though this is what must be, I am still their king. You must use your wolfish wiles to accomplish this task in accordance with your nature and theirs." "No problem," said the wolf. And the very next day the wolf went to work. The wolf came first to the houses of straw the pigs had constructed to protect themselves from hungry wolves. "Come out, little piggy," said the wolf. "I am hungry and wish to dine on pork." "No, no, you can't come in. Not by the thick and rather coarse bristles on my chinny chin chin." "I do so hate bad and unoriginal poetry," said the wolf. First he reached a paw through the straw next to the door and unlocked it. Then he leapt through the open door and devoured the piggy in one bite, for, as he had told the king, that is a thing that, in defiance of all common sense, wolves can do. Over the next few days the wolf went from straw house to straw house and devoured the piggies one by one. Meanwhile, the ruined fields drained, and with no pigs rooting in them, green things started to sprout, and the tender shoots of living straw poked their heads up through the soil. Seeing this from his palace, the king disguised himself and went to seek the wolf. "You have done well, O wolf," said the king. "Not only have you reduced my kingdom's problem with overpopulation, but the fields are returning. This is wonderful. Now we shall once again have food to feed ourselves and straw to build houses." The straw houses had not been much of an obstacle for the wolf, but he decided that he would keep this detail to himself in case it might benefit him in the future. "My task is not yet done, O King of Swine," said the wolf. "Look, see the houses of wood and sticks where the forest used to be. Your kingdom will not recover if the forest cannot recover." And the King of Swine looked and saw that the wolf spoke the truth. The king missed the beautiful forest that he could barely remember, and knew that his kingdom would need the wood and other resources it had produced in order to be self-sufficient. So the wolf went back to work with the king's blessing. The very next day he came to the houses of wood and sticks and knocked on the door of the first house. "Open up, little piggy," the wolf called through the solidly shut door. "I am a hungry wolf, and I have come to devour you in one bite." The wolf was expecting more bad poetry like he had heard from nearly every straw house. Instead, a voice from the other side of the door grunted, "You must go away. I do not wish to be eaten, and you must obey my wishes. I know the law of this kingdom, and you may not enter uninvited nor harm me in any way without my leave." The wolf was momentarily taken aback by this bold statement from his intended dinner. However, he soon rallied. "I do not recognize your laws, nor do I feel inclined to obey them," said the wolf. "I am a wolf. You are welcome to protect yourself if you can, of course, but if you cannot protect yourself, then whatever laws you choose to follow will be of no avail." And with that, the wolf took out a set of lockpicks and began to pick the house's lock. It took him some time, since his paws weren't shaped by nature to be adept at such fine and precise manipulations, but before too long the door swung open. Inside, the pig who inhabited the house was shaking with rage. "You may not enter! You are breaking the law!" squealed the furious pig. Undaunted, The wolf stepped inside and devoured him in one bite. One after another, day after day, the wolf devoured all the little piggies in the wooden houses. As the pigs grew fewer in number, the forest began to return. Seedling by seedling, leaf by leaf, young trees and growing things began to sprout, and without the constant rooting of snouts, they were free to grow undisturbed. Though he mourned for his subjects who had been devoured by the wolf, the king of swine rejoiced to see the forest begin to return. Now surely the wolf's work was done, and he would depart and leave the kingdom to recover. Thus, he once again disguised himself and snuck out to meet with the wolf. When the wolf heard the king's words, he shook his furry gray head sadly, his eyes gleaming with purpose. "No, O king of swine, my work is not yet done. See, the fields are returning. The forest is returning. But I ask you, O king, what happened to them in the first place? Why did it happen? Who was truly responsible?" The king was confused. Surely his subjects who had rooted and wallowed and made mires of the fields and the forest were to blame, and now they were no more. He spoke these words to the wolf, who once again shook his head sadly. "No, O king of swine. They were just pigs doing what pigs do. It was not their fault. I have watched as the pigs who live in the brick houses have kept the best mud holes to themselves and forced the other pigs to root and wallow where trees should grow and where food should grow. Those pigs are the pigs which must be eaten for your kingdom to truly recover." Hearing this, the king of swine was very afraid, for he now had very few subjects left and the wolf wished to eat them all. But he was more afraid of the wolf, whose eyes now gleamed with such purpose. He ran back to his fine brick palace with its very thick walls and locked the door. In the meantime, the wolf came to the first of the brick houses and knocked on the door. "Open up, fat little piggy," the wolf called. "I am a hungry wolf, and for the good of your kingdom and to satiate my own hunger, I will now eat you in one bite." But the pig would not open the door. "Listen up, wolf," the pig replied. "I have a private security force, and if you do not go away, I will find embarrassing things you said on social media. I'll go back years, decades even if I have to. I'll ruin you and you'll be fired. I'll post your address. I'll post your phone number. I'll make things up and people will believe me because I'm a verified pig and you're just a wolf." And the wolf looked at the house and saw that there was indeed a curious device depicting a green pig within a green circle affixed to the house's door. But the wolf had no employer and did not use social media, and ignored the threats that continued to issue forth from behind the heavy locked door. Finally, the wolf had had enough, and the electronic security system could not be picked. In frustrated desperation, the wolf proclaimed, "If you do not let me in, I will huff and I will puff and I will blow your door down." But the only thing that greeted the wolf's ears was the sound of laughter from inside. Muttering to himself, the wolf ran off. But soon he returned, huffing and puffing exactly as he had promised. Then he set the dynamite in front of the pig's door, moved a safe distance away and hit the detonator. The door was blown right off its hinges, and a good part of the wall went with it. Triumphantly, the wolf walked through the hole he had made and ate the obnoxious little piggy up in one bite. The other pigs heard the explosion and ran to the castle, but it was no use. The king was too afraid to open the gates, and so they were still gathered outside, banging on the closed doors when the wolf came and ate them one by one. Finally, the wolf knocked on the doors of the castle itself, the very same doors the last of the piggies had been futilely pounding upon. "O king," the wolf called, "open your gates and let me in, or I will blow them off your hinges. And I will not be huffing and puffing this time, for I have more than enough dynamite with me." Reluctantly, the king of swine opened the gate. "I have done your bidding, O king," the wolf said. "Your kingdom will recover. But it occurs to me that those obnoxious and privileged piggies in the brick houses were not truly to blame." "I tried to tell you that before you ate them," stammered the king, "and yet you ate them all." "It was necessary for the land to recover," said the wolf. "I have done your kingdom a great service. But it is with you, O king of swine, that the fault truly lies. For they were your subjects and you their king. Their faults are your faults, and it was you who let things get this far." But, O wolf," stammered the king, "you promised you would not eat me." "No," said the wolf, "I said I wouldn't devour you immediately, and I did not. But I am still hungry, and you are still a pig, and I am still a wolf." "But why, O wolf? Did I not have to do what was best for my kingdom?" "Yes," admitted the wolf. "As king, it is your duty to do what is best for your kingdom. But you knew I was a wolf. You knew what I was when you summoned me. Tell me, O king of swine, when your fields were turned to mires, why did you not plant rice? Pigs are omnivores. Why did you not fish in the sea? Why did you not bake the very mud of your mires into bricks?" But the king of swine could not answer, for the wolf had devoured him in one bite. In time the fields grew back, healthy and green beneath the sun, but untended. In time the forest grew back, and the strong brick walls of the king of swine's castle were cracked by many roots, and the brick houses crumbled one by one. And though the pigs were all gone, once it recovered, the land was all the healthier for their tenure. For though they had destroyed the fields and killed the trees, yet they had enriched the soil, and for a time the abandoned straw and wood and brick houses became the haunts and lairs of many creatures. The land was healthy and fertile and green, and the king of swine's intent was thus accomplished. But the wolf departed, for there were no pigs left for him to eat, and he was a wolf after all.